Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Wine with Jimmy channel. I am your host, Jimmy Smith. This is a series that has been created for the D3 section of the Diploma. That's the level 4 for WSET. And this is on Liguria, the beautiful coastal autonomous region to the south of Piemonte. Both Series 7 on the Val d'Aosta and Series 8 Liguria has an asterisk next to the name. The reason being is this not actually in the syllabus for the diploma, but I've added it in for good measure. So Liguria series, and we're splitting this into 7 parts. We are now on the key grape varieties of the Riviera de Levante. So it's not going to be a massive presentation, but it goes through 2 major grape varieties that we find here that are utilized in blends. We'll go through those. Any questions or comments or concerns, please do get in touch. You can do so by commenting on this video below. Make sure you click like, make sure you click subscribe. So what about the grape varieties as a whole, this area? Now, Liguria grows a range of native grape varieties. International varieties actually only account for a small proportion of the plantings, and they're generally used for IGT wines. More than half of the production is white, and we're going to talk about here actually Bosco and Vermentino. So Vermentino, the major player, Bosco down here. They're the 2 varieties that are of significant importance around this area, the Levante area. First of all, let's talk about Bosco. It's only about 4 or 5% of the plantations, but becoming more important. Now, what does it mean? The etymology of the name Bosco means woodland, supposedly because it was introduced to the Cinque Terre, the 5 earths or 5 land fishing villages, from cuttings taken from the woods around the Villa dei Marchesi d'Orazzo in nearby Genova. This makes it native, therefore, to La Spezia, which is this whole area here. So up towards Genoa and then down towards Cinque Terre, but La Spezia is the area, the region. It's a very vigorous vine, which is early to mid budding, and it's mid-ripening, but susceptible to things like mildew, powdery mildew. Just 100 hectares of this in the Italian register of grapes. It's typically blended with Vermentino, which is a major proponent of the wines down here, and a tertiary variety called Albarola. And Bosco is the variety that adds the weight and the body, the texture. It's a real rounded expression of a grape. Typically making wines that have darker colors to them. You'll find sort of real powerful characteristics, really wonderful. And it also typically goes into the Passito wines of Cinque Terre as well. The second grape variety is the most cultivated variety, and this is, of course, Vermentino. Now, the etymology of Vermentino is actually something quite logical sounding. It is Vermentino, comes from fermento, and that means ferment, probably referring to the fizzy character of the young wine. And it's a first mention of it, so it's very, very likely. Now, morphological and DNA evidence have actually clearly established that Favorita, that we find just north in Piemonte, and Pigato, which is the other side of Liguria, so on the Ponente side, are absolutely identical, and identical to Vermentino in places like Sardinia, Liguria, Tuscany and Corsica as well. So they're all one and the same variety. So Vermentino here, as Vermentino in Tuscany and Mediterranean islands, as well as Favorita and Pigato, are the same. So that's very fascinating. Now, of course, you will get some very strong protagonists, certainly from the other side, that make Pigato, who don't accept this because it can be really different. Pigato to Favorita to Vermentino, there are massive differences in terms of tastes. So some people just don't take that genetic science, but it is the same, but they've just, of course, grown in as different biotypes. What else have we got? It's early budding. It can be sensitive to spring frosts, therefore mid-ripening. It seems to benefit from proximity to the oceans. It's a real Mediterranean hugging grape variety. And it's susceptible to downy mildew and the European grape moth, which can cause destruction through vineyards when it starts to find its way in. Pigato, by the way, actually derives from the Ligurian dialect, meaning pigao, meaning spotted, because the appearance of the berries at maturity. This is not Pigato, but Vermentino, but you see they become a little bit spotted. And they called it Pigato because it started to spot as a variety. Vermentino would tend to add in the Cinque Terre blended wines more of the lively aromatic freshness and acidity, which counters Bosco, but typically really adds a saline-y character to it. Okay, so that brings me to the end of the presentation. I hope you've enjoyed it. Next up is actually looking at the key appellations of Liguria's Riviera de Levante. So we're going to talk, of course, about really two areas. We'll talk about the Cinque Terre DOC, and we'll talk about Colli de Luni DOC with a lovely Google Earth 3D video to put it in real perspective for you. So thank you so much for your time and attention. If you do have any comments, pop them in the comments section below. Make sure you click like and click subscribe, or get in touch via the social media. It's been a pleasure. If you do find yourself in the United Kingdom, of course, you know what to do. Come and see me at one of my establishments for a class, a glass, or a bottle. Cheers.